And welcome back to the St. Pete Science Festival. I want to remind everyone to click the button below the video for questions. We've been getting some great questions with our great presenters. We have another one coming up right now, sponsored by the Florida Institute of Oceanography. We're going to see the research vessel with Peyton LeBron and Rob Walker. Rob has done a great job for years with FIO and the research vessels. So welcome, Rob. Welcome, Peyton. Thank you so much for being here, and go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Harris, and welcome to everyone. I'm Rob Walker. I'm the Marine Operations Manager here at the Florida Institute of Oceanography, and we run several facilities for the state of Florida for ocean research. We have the two research vessels here in St. Petersburg. We also have a full-service lab down in the Keys. So what we're going to do today, we have a video tour of the vessel, and the reason why we can't do this live is we don't have internet access inside the vessel to provide a live link. So what we've done is pre-recorded a video of a walkthrough tour of the vessel. So we'll go ahead and start that here in a minute. The sound is a little low during the video, so if you can turn up your sound on your computer so you can hear a little better. There's a little bit of background noise. So we'll go ahead and start the video, and then when we're done, I'll take any questions that the group has in regards to what we do here at FIO. So go ahead and start the video.
All right.
Hello, my name is Rob Walker. I'm the Marine Operations Manager here at the Florida Institute of Oceanography. The FIO is a state of Florida academic and infrastructure support organization. What that means is we provide the services and the facilities for the state of Florida and our 32-member consortium. The three facilities that we operate are the two research vessels, the RV Weatherberg II, the RV Hogarth, both operated out of St. Petersburg on the USF St. Pete campus. We also operate a full-service marine lab in the Florida Keys called the Keys Marine Laboratory, which provides laboratory and dormitory space to researchers that are looking at coral reef, seagrass, and nearshore communities. Behind me, you'll see the research vessel Weatherberg II. We'll be going on board today. We'll talk a little bit about the different researchers that use the vessel and the different programs that we support. In addition, we'll be inside the skin of the vessel, and we'll show you some of the equipment we use, some of the systems we have on board, both for supporting science and for the navigation and operation of the vessel. So if you'd like to come aboard, please follow me. So before we get too far into the vessel, I'd like to talk a little bit about the different research programs that we support. Here at the Florida Institute of Oceanography, we provide the vessels for oceanographic and marine research. So again, we've got marine biologists that are on board that might be looking at marine mammals or fisheries research. We have marine chemists on board that may be interested in the chemical parameters of seawater, the different characteristics of seawater, salinity, temperature, dissolved oxygen, chlorophyll concentration. We also support programs in marine geology. So geology is the study of the earth itself. 70+% of the earth is covered by the ocean. So we do provide a lot of research support for geologists. They may be looking at sediment cores to look at the history of ocean sediments. In addition, we provide support for physical oceanographers. Physical oceanographers study the physics of the ocean, or how the water moves around and circulates around the globe. If you look down the end of the seawall here, you'll see way down on the end we have some buoys. Last week we were offshore providing support for the Ocean Circulation Group here at the University of South Florida. Those buoys are typically placed offshore on the West Florida shelf, and they measure oceanographic and meteorological information and provide that back to our researchers in the lab through a satellite link. So those are kind of four of the basic groups. We also provide onboard scuba support for folks that are doing maybe coral reef studies or dive support. We've supported archaeology programs and other research programs in and around the state of Florida. So what we'll do next is move into the lab towards the front of the vessel, and we'll talk a little bit about the equipment we have on board. So follow me. So One of the most heavily used pieces of equipment we have on board is the CTD carousel system. And this is a water sampling system that can be deployed over the side of the vessel. As you look at the unit here, you'll see all these bottles up at the top. Those are used to capture seawater while it's lowered down through the water. This instrument down on the bottom, which is the CTD, it's a conductivity, temperature, and depth sensor, records different characteristics of seawater. So if we want to know what the salinity is, it'll measure salinity, how much oxygen is in the water, how much chlorophyll, which the amount of chlorophyll in the water directly relates to phytoplankton or plant plankton that's in the seawater. In addition, we have other optical instruments that may measure hydrocarbon density or how much oil would be in the water if we had an oil spill. We also have other instrumentation and will measure what the depth of the unit is. So this entire package can be deployed overboard and then deployed down through the water, and it records all that information while it's being deployed and also sends it up to our computer system that we have in the laboratory. So as we're deploying this, if we want to close one of these bottles, we can send an electronic signal down the line and the bottle will close up. So there's 12 bottles on this particular unit, each 12 liters each. So as this is deployed, all that information is recorded, and then we also have water samples that are kept and can be recovered once the entire unit is back up on the deck of the vessel. So we're going to move indoors right now, and just follow me. Piece of gear that we use on board the research vessel Weatherbird 2 and the Hogarth is the Defender ROV. This is the ROV sitting here on the desktop. An ROV is a remotely operated vehicle, and this has a tether or control line that leads all the way back to the vessel. So this can be lowered over the side of the vessel. It has propeller systems and drive systems on board that will allow it to move through the water. On board this particular instrument is a camera, a forward viewing camera, and we also have a manipulator arm, which is a small robotic arm that can be turned and used to collect samples when we're on the ocean bottom. This unit also has a finder, so if the cable were to break, we have a beacon here so we can recover the unit even in the case of a cable separation. This unit is used to study different bottom characteristics. Typically it's used during daylight hours when we have full light. The system also has a sonar system, a forward-looking sonar that can allow us to operate in very murky waters. So if there were no light at all, the sonar system provides kind of a picture of where we are. So if we were swimming the unit through pilings, you could actually see the pilings using the sonar system. But again, it's a very useful tool that we have on board the vessels. Okay, we've now moved forward into the electronics lab. The electronics lab is essentially the nerve center of the vessel. All the different systems on board the vessel, both the science systems and the operational systems, are fed into this laboratory. We have a data acquisition system that will allow collection of all the oceanographic data that we may be looking at when we're offshore. But in addition, it also takes all the operational and navigation data from the wheelhouse, including the GPS, so we know exactly where we are anywhere in the world. It'll tell us what time it is and how far we've moved, course over ground, speed over ground. So all that information is collected and tied into our data systems that we have on board the vessel. The carousel that we talked about on the main deck is driven by a computer system here in the lab, so we can control that once it's overboard. It can be completely controlled remotely through the electronics lab. We have a series of transducers in the hull of the vessel that measure current, speed, and direction under the vessel. We have fisheries transducers on board as well that can provide a picture of the bottom, in addition to allowing fisheries scientists to assess what the population density of the fish are in particular areas. Our communication system on board the vessel is also driven through this electronics lab. We have a satellite communication that allows us 24-hour-a-day internet access. So any of our researchers or crew members that are on board will have access to email and the internet while we're at sea. That computer system also provides our primary voice communications when we're on board the vessel. So through a voice over IP line, we can make phone calls from the vessel when we're outside of cell phone range, which is quite often. We lose cell phone service once we're about 10 miles offshore. Again, all this information is collated and recorded on the different data systems and computers we have here in the lab. So what we'll do next, we're going to kind of move forward. We'll show you a cabin where researchers and crew stay when they're on board the vessel. So this particular cabin is used for our science party when they're on board. We can take as many as 13 scientists on board the research vessel Weatherbird 2. The Hogarth is a little smaller. She can hold as many as 10 scientists on board the vessel. Our crew on board, our full-time crew, we have 6. We have a captain and a mate that rotate shifts, actually steering the vessel and navigating the vessel. We have 2 engineers on board that keep all the systems running when we're at sea. We also have a marine technician, and we've got a cook on board the vessel. For particular cruises, the marine tech may not be needed, and we also have a deckhand on board. So we have 6, sometimes 7 crew and as many as 13 scientists on board the vessel. So this vessel can stay out for as long as 12 days. So this may be your home for 12 days at sea. So if we're out for 12 days, we have a lot of different things that we have to be concerned about. We've got electricity we have to provide, which is provided by generators on board the vessel. We have our communication system, which I talked about over in the electronics lab. We have our own sewer system on board the vessel. We have our own water system on board the vessel. So with 20 people on board, as you can imagine, we use a lot of resources, including water. So we have the water maker on board, so we can turn seawater into potable or drinkable water, and we can make about 1,000 gallons of water a day. So what we'll do next is we're going to move forward into the galley and mess deck area, and we'll talk a little bit about the meals and how we keep people well fed while we're at sea. So this is our galley and mess deck area. We have seating for about 15 people. Again, when we have a full vessel with 7 crew and 13 scientists on board, we tend to try and eat in shifts. So we'll have the crew, which is either coming off shift or going on shift, try and get their meals first and then go to their stations, and then we bring our science party in so they have sufficient seating for everybody to sit at one time. So 20 people on board, as you can imagine, the vessel's out for 12 days. We can't stop at a grocery store while we're offshore, so we have to bring all our own food with us. Prior to sailing, we've got to stock the vessel and have all our supplies and our food on board before sailing. So the cook works very hard. We have 3 meals a day. Our crew on board works 12-hour days, and usually they work 8 hours in the morning, and then they're off at 4 in the afternoon. Another 4-hour work schedule in the afternoon, and then 8 hours off at night. So we split that between the 2 crews. So some of the guys are up in the middle of the night, some of our crew is up in during the daytime hours. So we have, again, enough food stores on board for as long as 12 to 14 days while we're at sea with a full vessel. So what we'll do next is we will move up into the wheelhouse. We'll talk a little bit about the operation of the vessel. So if you'd like to follow me, come this way. Now on the bridge, or the wheelhouse of the research vessel Weatherbird 2. As you can see, there's quite a bit of instrumentation here. We have backup systems for just about everything on board. If you look at the forward console here, we have radios that allow us ship-to-ship communication. We have radar systems on board. We have 2 different radars. We have a computer-aided navigation system that'll take in our GPS location. So the captain is actually seeing a chart on the computer monitor, and he can navigate the vessel safely in and out of Tampa Bay or wherever we need to be for our research programs. So the reason we have backup systems for everything is the cost of the vessel. It's expensive to have this vessel at sea working. So if we have a radio that goes down, we no longer have radio communications. If we only have one radio on board, that would cause the cancellation of the cruise and we'd have to come back into shore. So again, we have these backup systems for redundancy while we're offshore, so we can continue to work. We have radar systems, radios, we have the navigation system, we have autopilot system on board, which is used once we're on a certain track, so we can program in particular work locations, and the autopilot will take us there. We always have a watchstander on the bridge, whether it's the captain or the mate, during all operations, including the time we're on autopilot. We still carry paper charts on board, so if the computer system will go down, we can still access our chart table and use the paper charts for navigating and returning to shore. We have a variety of different safety systems on board the vessel. We have two 25-person life rafts, one on the port side and one on the starboard side of the vessel. And if for some reason the vessel were taking on water, we can deploy those, and we have enough capacity for the entire vessel on both port and starboard side. We have EPIRBs on board the vessel, which is essentially an emergency positioning radio beacon that if the vessel were to go down, that EPIRB will sound off and the Coast Guard will know exactly where that EPIRB is. So we want to keep those EPIRBs with the life rafts, and there's also one for the vessel. We have a fire system on board which will allow remote firefighting, so we can seal off a compartment and pump CO2 gas into the compartment to put the fire out. We have backup radios, backup cell and satellite telephone service on board the vessel, and backup navigation and communication systems as well. So I think we're going to wrap up the tour here. What we'll do is take a walk out onto the main deck, and we'll take a walk around. In a few minutes, I'll be available for questions if you have any. Hopefully you guys have thought about it and have some good questions for us. This is one of the 25-person life rafts we have on board the vessel. At the ship's bell. Head back down to the main deck. Watch your step. We have our rigid hull inflatable vessel here, which is used for shuttling people back and forth to maybe a dive location, or if we have to shuttle people to shore, we can use a small boat. In addition, on this deck, this is the O1 deck, or one deck up from the main deck, you'll see that we have our 3 winches, oceanographic winches, our hydrographic winch, which is furthest forward. The smaller winch can be used for smaller equipment deployed off the starboard side. Our CTD winch, we talked about the CTD early on in the tour. This is the winch that is used to deploy that equipment. And then we have our main winch, which faces aft, to be used to deploy equipment or buoys or towed platforms over the stern of the vessel or the back of the vessel. So we turn back down to the main deck here. I'd like to thank you all for coming aboard the research vessel Weatherbird 2. Again, my name is Rob Walker. I'm the Marine Operations Manager here. Again, the 2 vessels are the Weatherbird. We also run the RV Hogarth, and then of course our full-service Marine Lab in the Keys, called the Florida Keys Marine Lab. So if you have any questions, I'll be available live to take your questions here in a few minutes. Thanks again for coming aboard.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob, for that. Great tour. I've been there on the boat many times. It is much bigger even than it looks. It's It's really neat. It's fantastic way to really get to understand science on the water, which is really exciting. So let me ask you this. We've got a couple questions coming in, Rob. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, you're loud and clear.
Sounds good. All right. So go ahead. If you can stop sharing, so we can see you guys and that beautiful background we got. All right. So a couple questions we've got coming in. Some really neat questions. This is coming from Jesse from Academy at the Lakes. Is this ship used for other missions other than marine studies conducted on a regular basis, or is it just specifically used for research?
We are designated a research vessel by the United States Coast Guard. So that allows us to operate as a research vessel. So we're restricted from, we couldn't do like a wedding reception on board, or we couldn't haul freight, things like that. So the Coast Guard designates us, and that's essentially what we do. So if it's not related to oceanographic or marine research, it's a little out of our operational realm.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So I'm going to do a combo question here. We got a couple neat questions coming in. We've got some from Charlotte and Victoria that they want to know, what are some remedies if you get seasick? That's a good one for anyone, right?
Yeah, actually that can be a problem. Although the vessel is 115 feet long, once we are out offshore, even a 3 to 4 foot sea can cause the vessel to move quite a bit. We encourage our researchers when they're coming on board. I apologize for the noise in the background. We have a truck coming through the parking lot. So we encourage our researchers to, if they are affected by seasickness, that they take seasickness medication prior to getting on board the vessel. And usually that's done 12 to 24 hours before the vessel sails. Because once you're offshore and you're sick, the medicine doesn't do you really any good at that point. So again, yeah, it can be a problem, but the folks that are on board are out there to actually work. They're out there doing their research. It's expensive to charter the vessel. So they tend to want to make sure they can get their work done. So oftentimes they will take medication prior to sailing.
Certainly, yeah. So Isabella from Academy at the Lakes is interested in knowing how many trips does the vessel make, let's say, per year? And also a nice follow-up question is, did the pandemic affect your work?
Both, great questions. So in a typical year prior to COVID, each of our vessels, the Weatherbird and the Hogarth, would spend approximately 125 days a year at sea. And those 125 days are split into anywhere from a 3-day trip to maybe up to a 10 or 12-day trip. And that's mixed up. We may have some water quality people that only need 4 days of ship time. And then we might have some fisheries work where they're out for the full 12 days. And then we might do a couple day trips just out and back into the Tampa Bay. So it varies over the course of a year, though. That's probably 15 trips split into these, single days or up to 10-day trips. So during the pandemic, we had some restrictions on how many folks we could have on board the vessel. We had requested that everyone, once they're inside the skin of the vessel, wear masks. We increased the circulation of air throughout the vessel, and we had sterilizers put in that could clean the air that was inside the vessel. We had additional, the schedule was increased for the number of times we cleaned the vessel. So the crew on board were cleaning the vessel every 4 hours. So again, there were quite a few steps we had to take to continue to operate. Now, again, we shut down completely for a period of about 5 months. And then once we were allowed to reopen and start taking researchers back to sea, the Weatherbird ordinarily takes 13. We could only take 6 researchers to sea. And we had to separate people into different cabins. So yeah, there were quite a few measures we had to take to provide the vessel and keep it safe for our researchers and crew on board.
Excellent. Yeah, and you guys do such great work, Rob, and I know you got a great crew out there. Really want to thank you for being here today and sharing what you guys do, all the research that you do, and really a great tour. That vessel, again, I've been on it many times, and students are able to go on there. It's a really neat field trip. I also want to highlight the fact that Rob and his team have been doing this research with multiple organizations. So it's not just them. That's the really neat thing. They partner with people all over the country and beyond. So I really want to give you guys kudos to that. Thank you again, Rob, for being here, and FIO. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being involved again, and we look forward to seeing everybody in person hopefully next year.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we'll be right back to the St. Pete Science Festival. Come on back and join us.